The New England forest in early autumn. Leaves were beginning to change color, and cold winds blew through the trees. It had been raining steadily for 3 days, turning small streams into rushing currents. Ember was a bobcat kitten, only 3 months old. His reddish-brown fur was soaked as he huddled beneath an old oak tree. He was hungry, he was cold, and he was completely alone. Ember's mother had disappeared 3 days earlier while trying to cross a stream in search of food. The current had swept her away forever. Ember didn't understand what had happened. He only knew his mother would never return. Not far away, Athena, a great horned owl, perched on a branch, her feathers damp. A week earlier, a large branch had broken in the rain and crushed her nest, along with the 3 eggs inside. Now, Athena had no nest, no family, only a deep sadness. The sky was darkening and the rain began to fall harder. Athena looked down and noticed a small movement beneath the tree. Her hunting instincts prompted her to silently take flight and swoop down. It was a bobcat kitten, an ideal dinner for a hungry owl. But as she approached, she paused. Ember looked up to see the large owl circling overhead. He was too hungry and too tired to run. He just stood there, trembling, his blue eyes looking directly into Athena's amber ones. There was something in that gaze, a loneliness that Athena recognized, a desperation she understood well. Ember made a feeble cry, somewhat similar to an owl chick's call. Athena hesitated. Instinct told her to attack, but another urge, the maternal instinct, was stronger. As darkness fell over the forest, Athena landed beside Ember. The bobcat kitten froze, but didn't flee. Athena gently took the scruff of Ember's neck in her beak and took flight. She flew to a dry hollow in a tree that she had found after losing her nest. The hollow was small, but big enough for both of them. Athena placed Ember down and used her wing to shield him from the cold. For the first time since his mother disappeared, Ember felt safe. He curled up and fell asleep. The following days were challenging. Athena didn't know how to care for a creature that wasn't an owl. She tried regurgitating partially digested food, the way mother owls feed their young, but Ember couldn't eat like that. Instead, Athena had to bring back whole mice and small birds. Ember also faced many problems. He nearly fell from the hollow several times. Bobcats weren't born to live high up in trees. He was awake all day when Athena needed to sleep, and wanted to sleep when Athena hunted at night. But gradually, they both adapted. Ember learned to sleep more during the day and stay awake at dusk. He learned to move carefully in the high nest. Athena began hunting smaller prey, and sometimes brought back live prey so Ember could learn to hunt. Each night, Athena taught Ember how to observe and listen, how to recognize the scents and sounds of enemies, how to hide and wait. Not the way a normal bobcat would learn from its mother, but a strange combination of owl and bobcat skills. Other animals in the forest began to notice this strange pair. An old squirrel living nearby often looked on in confusion when it saw Athena and Ember returning to the nest after a hunting trip. A pair of curious seagulls circled around to observe this strange phenomenon. But Athena didn't care. She had found a new purpose, and Ember had found a new mother. For 2 weeks, through rain and sunshine, the bond between them grew stronger. Ember was no longer potential prey. He was Athena's child. And Athena was no longer a fearsome predator. She was Ember's mother. A family that followed none of nature's rules, but a real family nonetheless. Catherine Elizabeth Morgan arrived in the New England forest on a beautiful autumn morning. She rented a small cabin at the edge of the forest to live and work for the next 2 months. Catherine was a professional nature photographer. Her 20-year marriage had just ended, not with a fierce battle, but with a gradual silence and an unbridgeable distance. Now she had come here seeking healing and inspiration for a new photo book project about New England wildlife. On the first day, Catherine only unpacked and arranged her equipment. On the second day, She walked through the forest, mapping potential areas for photography. On the third day, she began her real work. She woke before dawn, carrying her camera, zoom lens, and a small backpack with food. Her goal was to photograph wildlife as they began their day. Catherine had photographed around the world, from lions in Africa to polar bears in the Arctic, but she always had a special love for the forests of her homeland. She found a good spot near a large oak tree and waited patiently. The first few hours yielded nothing special: a few squirrels, a forest rabbit, and many birds. But as the sun rose higher, Catherine noticed an unusual movement through her lens. On a high branch, a great horned owl was perched. Nothing unusual until she saw a second creature beside it. "Impossible," Catherine whispered as she adjusted her lens for a better look. Next to the owl was a bobcat kitten. They weren't confrontational or tense. They were together. The owl seemed to be teaching the bobcat how to observe. Catherine took continuous shots, trying not to make noise. This was unprecedented. An owl and a bobcat, predator and potential prey, living together. In her 25 years of working with wildlife, she had never seen anything like it. She watched them until the owl flew away, perhaps to hunt. The bobcat kitten remained on the branch, skillfully maintaining balance in a way unnatural for its species. Catherine took a few more photos, then decided to return to the cabin to review the images and research further. The next day, she returned earlier and brought binoculars along with her camera. She found the strange pair in a large tree hollow. The owl, whom Catherine named Athena for her obvious wisdom, was sleeping, while the bobcat kitten, whom she named Ember for his reddish-brown fur, was cautiously exploring around the nest. For a week, Catherine returned each day to observe. She took notes on everything, shot hundreds of photos, and gradually understood the dynamics of this pair. Athena had lost her nest and possibly her offspring. Ember had been abandoned or orphaned. Two lonely creatures had found each other and formed a bond that defied all natural laws. Catherine knew she shouldn't interfere with nature, but she also wanted to help. One morning, she brought some raw chicken and placed it under the tree where Athena and Ember lived. She retreated to a safe distance and waited. At first, nothing happened, but as the sun rose higher, Athena flew down, cautiously inspecting the gift. The owl turned her head toward Catherine's hiding place, her sharp yellow eyes as if knowing she was there. Finally, Athena took the food up to the nest, and Catherine smiled when she saw Ember pounce on the meat with excitement. Day after day, Catherine continued to leave food, sometimes chicken, sometimes fresh fish. Each time she backed away a little further, and Athena seemed to gradually get used to her presence. Ember, with the natural curiosity of a bobcat, began to notice Catherine and sometimes even climbed down lower on the tree to observe her. One afternoon, while Athena was hunting, Catherine sat under the tree photographing Ember, practicing climbing. Suddenly, a large hawk swooped down from above, aiming straight at the distracted bobcat kitten. Catherine acted without thinking. She swung her backpack up, shouted loudly, and made the hawk change direction at the last minute. Ember, frightened by the noise and sudden movement, nearly fell from the branch. Without thinking, Catherine ran forward and caught him before he hit the ground. The bobcat kitten froze in her arms, but didn't scratch or bite. At the same moment, Athena returned and saw Catherine holding Ember. The owl swooped down, wings spread wide, and making threatening calls. Catherine slowly knelt down, still holding Ember. "It's okay," she said softly. "I won't hurt him. A hawk. I was just helping." Athena landed in front of Catherine, feathers erect. In that tense moment, Ember wriggled free from Catherine's arms and ran to Athena's side. But instead of fleeing, he stopped between the owl and the woman, as if trying to communicate something to his mother. Catherine slowly backed away, not taking her eyes off Athena. The owl remained vigilant, but didn't attack. She carefully inspected Ember, then surprisingly changed her posture. Her feathers settled down, and she tilted her head to look at Catherine with what seemed almost like Gratitude? From that day on, the relationship between Catherine and the strange pair changed. Athena allowed her to come closer. Ember began to wait for her appearance each day. Catherine even brought a book and read aloud while sitting under the tree, letting both of them get used to her voice. The weather forecast on TV warned of a major storm approaching the New England area tonight. Winds could reach 70 miles per hour. Catherine turned off the TV and looked out the window. It was already dark, and black clouds were moving in quickly. The clock showed 7 p.m. Athena and Ember were out there in a tree hollow not sturdy enough to withstand the coming storm. Catherine put on her raincoat, grabbed a flashlight and a pet carrier. She ran to her car and drove to the nearest point that could access Athena and Ember's nest area. The wind had already picked up, and the first raindrops were falling. Flashlight in hand, Catherine entered the forest. She knew the way well, after many days of observing the strange pair. When she approached the large oak tree, Athena's familiar warning call rang out. Catherine shined her light up at the tree hollow. Yellow eyes reflected the light. Athena was huddled in the hollow, wings spread to protect Ember. The hollow had already begun to leak, and both were wet. Catherine placed the carrier on the ground, opened the lid and backed away several steps. The rain was now falling heavily, and wind gusted through the branches. A cracking sound nearby, a branch breaking. Time was running out. For minutes that felt like centuries. Nothing happened. Then Athena gently pushed Ember toward the edge of the hollow. The Bobcat Kitten hesitated, but another push from Athena caused him to slide down and fall into the carrier below. Catherine took a step forward, but Athena made a warning call. She stood still. Slowly, the owl flew down, perching beside the carrier. She looked at Catherine, then at Ember in the carrier. Finally, she jumped onto the edge of the carrier and perched there, not going inside, but not flying away either. Catherine gently lifted the carrier, careful not to disturb Athena. With Ember inside the carrier and Athena perched on its edge, she began walking back to the car. The storm had now fully arrived. Rain poured down like a waterfall, and wind howled through the trees. Catherine had to bend down to fight against the wind. To her surprise, Athena remained perched on the edge of the carrier, her wings partially spread as if to shield Ember. When they reached the car, Catherine opened the back door and carefully placed the carrier on the seat. Athena flew up, perching on the front seat headrest, her eyes never leaving Ember. She drove back to the cabin through the howling wind. Catherine's small cabin was warm and dry, a complete contrast to the fierce storm outside. She placed the carrier on the floor near the fireplace and opened the lid. Ember immediately jumped out, alert but curious. Athena flew inside, perching on a chair near the window, a position that allowed her to observe the entire room. Catherine took some raw chicken from the refrigerator and placed it on a plate on the floor. Ember approached, carefully sniffing the meat before beginning to eat. Athena maintained her distance, but her sharp eyes missed no movement. Catherine didn't try to force anything. She sat on the sofa, keeping a safe distance, and took out a book. She began to read in a steady voice, as she had done many times under the tree, allowing Athena and Ember to become familiar with the new space at their own pace. Catherine continued reading, occasionally looking up to check on her special guests. After about an hour, Ember had explored the entire room and was now curled up on a cushion near the fireplace, eyes half closed with sleepiness. Athena still perched on the chair, but her posture had relaxed. As the night progressed, Catherine prepared a temporary bed for herself on the sofa, not wanting to go into the bedroom and frighten Athena. She placed another plate of food and a bowl of water near Ember, then turned off the lights, leaving only the glow from the fireplace. In the middle of the night, Catherine woke to a strange sensation. She opened her eyes and saw that Athena had moved, the owl now perched on the sofa armrest just inches from Catherine's head. But there was nothing threatening about it. Athena seemed to be standing guard. Ember was still sleeping soundly on the cushion, but now closer to the sofa. Catherine lay still, her heart beating faster with emotion. This was a sign of trust she hadn't expected. Slowly, she turned her head for a better look. Athena didn't fly away. The owl just tilted her head, yellow eyes reflecting the firelight, as if reassessing Catherine once more. The storm still raged outside. A lightning bolt struck nearby, and the lights in the cabin flickered and went out completely. Power outage. The room was now lit only by the fireplace. In that sudden moment, Ember woke with a start and made a frightened cry. Immediately, Athena flew down beside the Bobcat Kitten. Catherine lay still, watching the scene before her. Athena used her wing to shield Ember, and gradually the Bobcat Kitten calmed down. Then, something unexpected happened. Ember, still half asleep, crawled out from under Athena's protective wing and moved toward Catherine. The Bobcat Kitten climbed onto the sofa and curled up in the space beside her. Athena tensed, but didn't intervene. The owl flew up and perched on the back of the sofa, a position from which she could watch both Ember and Catherine. A moment of silence passed. Then, in a gesture that almost made Catherine stop breathing, Athena gently spread one wing, as if wanting to shelter them both. Morning came with weak sunlight filtering through the clouds left after the storm. Catherine woke to find Ember still curled up beside her. Athena was no longer on the back of the sofa. Catherine's heart tightened. Perhaps the owl had flown away. But as she slowly sat up, she saw Athena perched on the windowsill looking outside. The window was still closed. The owl had chosen to stay. Catherine breathed a sigh of relief. She gently stood up, trying not to wake Ember. Going into the kitchen, she began preparing breakfast. No electricity, but the gas stove still worked. Catherine took more chicken from the gradually warming refrigerator and placed it on a plate. She also filled a fresh bowl of water. When she returned to the living room, Ember was awake and stretching in typical cat fashion. Athena still perched on the windowsill, but had turned to look inside. Catherine set the food down on the floor and backed away. Ember jumped down from the sofa and approached the food plate. After a moment's hesitation, Athena also flew down, perching beside the food plate. For the first time, both ate side by side in front of Catherine, a sign of complete trust. Catherine opened the window, allowing Athena to fly outside if she wished. The owl looked outside, then back at Ember, and finally at Catherine. In what seemed like a carefully considered decision, Athena remained in the cabin. That day, Catherine watched as Ember explored every corner of the cabin with endless curiosity. The Bobcat Kitten climbed onto bookshelves, jumped on tables, and even tried to climb the curtains. Athena watched from high positions, occasionally making soft calls as if scolding when Ember was too reckless. Catherine found unexpected joy in watching these two creatures interact. She took photos, made notes, and occasionally laughed out loud when Ember did something particularly funny. Athena no longer seemed bothered by her laughter. As night fell, Catherine prepared dinner for all three. The electricity had been restored, and she could cook a hot meal for herself while preparing fresh food for Athena and Ember. In the warm light of the cabin, a strange feeling enveloped Catherine, the feeling of family. A family that followed no rules, but a real family nonetheless. Catherine had planned to stay in this forest for 2 months to complete her photo book project. But as she watched Ember playing with a ball of yarn and Athena perched nearby, watching with maternal patience, she knew her plans had changed. This cabin had become home, and Athena and Ember had become her family. In the weeks that followed, Catherine created a safe outdoor space adjacent to the cabin for Athena and Ember. A place where Athena could fly freely, and Ember could explore nature, but still be protected. Each night, all three returned to the cabin to sleep. Each day, the bond between them grew stronger. Catherine didn't publish the photos of Athena and Ember as originally planned. Instead, she wrote a personal journal about her experience. About how a great horned owl and a bobcat kitten had taught her about love without boundaries. About how 3 lonely souls had found each other and become a family. A year after that fateful storm, Catherine bought the cabin and the surrounding land. She created a small wildlife sanctuary, with Athena and Ember as the first residents. Their strange relationship, an owl, a bobcat, and a woman, continued to flourish, proving that love can exist between the most different beings, given enough patience, understanding, and kindness.